In this video, we're going to take a look at the new 2024 solar generator options on the market and see how they stack up against one another. There are a lot of great options in 2024, but since these are large ticket purchases, it's really important that you have all the information that we're about to detail before buying one of these if you're in the market. Now, the three most common questions I get asked when I review these are, which one should I buy? What's the best option for a tight budget? And will it power my refrigerator or whatever electrical device? We're going to answer all those questions and a whole lot more. And you're definitely going to want to stick around to the end as we're going to be doing a giveaway on one of these units. This video is one part educational, one part review, and one part analysis based on my years of experience testing these units out. Now, I purposefully start the video by educating you so that you can make the best decision for your needs. Now, once you understand the basics, trust me, you'll be an informed buyer. I could have recommended a specific unit to make more money for myself, but instead I wanted you to be informed so that you know what's best for you. So here's the outline of the video along with timestamps, which are shown here on the side of the screen and in the description section below. What is a solar generator? The important factors you should understand before buying one, how I test these units. I'll do a run through of each model and the test results for the units. We'll discuss solar panel options. How do you maintain and protect these? We'll answer the most common question, what can I power with these? This part of the video goes over a custom tool that we built specifically for this video to help you answer that question. Which would I recommend? And finally, we're going to announce the giveaway and show you how you can sign up. All right, we've got a lot of ground to cover, but before we jump into our first point, if you enjoyed the format of this video, we're going to be opening up our membership area on the City Prepping website shortly. This website has educational videos similar to those that you'll find in this video for those looking to learn emergency preparedness. I'll post a link below if you're interested. So let's jump in. What is a solar generator? I start here because it's really important that we quickly explain what these are. Most of us are used to traditional ICE or internal combustion engine generators. You add gasoline, diesel, or propane to fire up the engine to produce electricity. But what is a solar generator, and should it really be called a generator? I'm going to answer that question in a moment, but let's first point out what these units actually do. In a nutshell, these devices harvest energy from the sun through solar panels or from an AC source and store it into batteries. And you can then plug in electrical devices to power them from that stored energy. So in effect, you could provide infinite power with one of these as long as you have available sunlight through solar panels. Now, these are popular within my community because if properly maintained, you could run these things for years to power your devices. So are they really generators though? I would argue that you're just skipping the middleman with these devices. A standard ICE generator uses a petroleum-based fuel source, oil. Now, oil is produced over long periods of time from organic materials that decayed and were buried, such as plants that originally harvested their energy from the sun through photosynthesis, with sunlight being the main driver of the process. And with these units, we just really skip that whole process and harvest the energy directly from the sun. Now, admittedly, solar generator is a bit of a marketing term, but I think you get the general idea. So let's move to the next point. Important factors before buying. Okay, here's where we discuss what you need to understand before purchasing one. This section is designed to educate you so you know what to look for before buying one. I haven't mentioned this point in my past comparison videos, but here's the issue. There are a lot of these companies on the market now, and I've been offered large sums of money to promote new off-brand units, and I don't because I've seen companies pop up with large marketing budgets and then deliver a piece of junk product. And I've seen other channels promote those products because the payout was huge. And the problem is, and I've seen this happen, the company will either deliver a subpar product or just go out of business, and then you get stuck with a paperweight when it inevitably fails. Additionally, if there's a disaster and you're relying on this and it's junk, it's not going to be helpful even though the company may have a warranty. And as such, I would recommend you stick with the reputable brands that we're going to showcase in this video because they're established. Capacity simply refers to the amount of power that one of these devices can store. This unit is often listed as watt hours. And let me explain this quickly to you in very practical terms. A watt is just a unit of power. I've got a few devices here in front of me to help us understand this practically. On the side of most electrical devices, if you look very closely, you're going to see the watts that it requires to operate the device. For example, this light bulb requires 9 watts, and this laptop charger here in front of me pulls 45 watts. Now this heat gun actually pulls 1800 watts, which is quite a lot. And for this example, let's just say I need to power my laptop and just a light bulb. The light bulb needs 9 watts. And again, remember the laptop charger pulls 45 watts. So if we were to add 9 plus 45, we get 54. Okay, so what can I do with that number? If I were to leave these devices on, my light bulb and my laptop charger, for 1 hour, they would use 54 watt hours of the battery's capacity. See what I did there? 9 plus 45 equals 54. Again, powering these for 1 hour would use 54 watt hours. So let's apply this information to the solar generator that I've got here in front of me. This is the EcoFlow Delta 2, which has roughly a capacity of about 1,000 watt hours. If I were to divide 1,000, the capacity of this device's batteries, by 54, the number of watts that I need to power the devices for 1 hour, we would get 18.51. This means that we could output 54 watts continuously for about 18.51 hours. It's really that simple. Now, there are a few other factors that we're going to have to discuss momentarily that impact the total output, namely efficiency. But if you get this initial concept, you're doing great. Output capability refers to how much this device can output. Now, there are 3 values that you're typically going to see listed on these specs on their website. You're going to see continuous, you're going to see surge, and UPS or EPS. Let's start with the first element, continuous output. This value tells us the maximum number of watts that this system can continuously provide. Now here in front of me, I have the Bluetti AC180, and according to the specs for this unit, it can output 1800 watts continuously. If we plug in multiple devices that draw more than 1800 watts, it's going to turn off. For example, if we plugged in this heat gun, which when turned all the way up will draw 1800 watts, and we can see it written here on the side, the solar generator could power this until the battery was completely depleted. Now, I don't recommend that you run these devices at 100% output on a continual basis, because if you did, you're eventually going to prematurely degrade the battery over time at that level. It's just going to overheat and degrade it. Think about it like your car. If you were to run your car all day at the maximum RPM, you'd burn up your motor pretty quickly. And the same principle applies to these devices. Ideally, you want to run them at around 50 to 70% of what the manufacturer lists as the maximum. And again, since this Bluetti is rated for 1800 watts output, I would plan on pushing it no more than about 900 watts to 1200 watts on a regular basis. We're going to discuss this principle a bit more later in the video when I walk you through our spreadsheet. Now regarding surge, some devices, they draw a lot of power when you start them up. Think about things like fans, refrigerators, or saws, because all of these have a motor. And when you start these devices up, you're going to see a momentary spike in power consumption to get the motor moving. And then what will happen is it will settle down to continuous watt usage, which we discussed in the previous point. So why is it important to understand this value? This Bluetti AC180 has a surge capacity of 2700 watts. And if you plug in a device with a higher surge requirement than 2700 watts, then it's going to cause this to trip a circuit internally, which you can reset when you restart it. Now, the last output consideration is UPS or EPS. UPS stands for uninterruptible power supply, and EPS stands for emergency power supply. Now, some of these devices, they have this option. So what is UPS or EPS? If you have a device plugged into your home's wall socket and the power goes out, well, the device will immediately stop working. And to get around this, you can plug your device into these solar generators and then plug the solar generator into the wall socket. So if the power were to go down, the solar generator's batteries would immediately take over and continue providing power to your device. If you have a piece of equipment that must continue running if the power goes out without any downtime, let's say a computer or a piece of medical equipment, then having this feature in the device will be important to you. So what's the difference between UPS and EPS? To qualify as UPS, the switchover time has to happen in under 10 milliseconds. And for EPS, they switch over in under 30 milliseconds. Before we talk about battery chemistry, I first need to explain charge cycles. Charge cycles simply refer to charging up and discharging a battery. So in other words, just using it. Have you ever noticed that your phone battery seems to not really last as long after about a year or two of usage? As you charge it and use it each day, it begins to lose its ability to hold as much of a charge as it did when you first bought it. And with these models, you typically have two options, either lithium ion or lithium iron phosphate. Now, lithium ion batteries, they weigh slightly less, but you get fewer charge cycles. Lithium iron phosphate batteries, on the other hand, they're going to last much longer and they can handle a lot more charge cycles, but they're a little bit heavier. Let's look at a practical example. This Jackery 2000 Pro uses lithium ion batteries. If I were to use this Jackery's battery starting at 100% fully charged and then drain it all the way down to zero or fully depleted, after 500 of these charge cycles from completely full to completely depleted, the battery could only hold about 80% of its original capacity. It's slowly losing its ability to hold a full charge. And this particular unit is rated for about 2100 watts of capacity. Now, after 500 cycles, it would only roughly hold about 1700 cycles, which is 20% less than 2100. Also, their lifespan is about 2 or 3 years before you begin to see degradation in their storage capacity. Now, additionally, lithium iron phosphate batteries, they can handle heat and they're more stable than lithium ion batteries. And most of the products that we're reviewing this year use lithium iron phosphate, whereas a few years ago, you saw a lot more lithium ion batteries. The industry has really switched over because it's a superior battery technology. The next feature to consider is expandability. Do you want to expand the capacity of your device in the future by adding more batteries from the manufacturer? Now, some of these units, they can be expanded and some cannot. Jackery really didn't have this feature on their portable units for a long time, but they've now added that new feature to this model, the Jackery 1000 Plus. Many of the units that we review in this video can expand the battery capacity, and it's becoming more common with these units. It's really a nice feature to have even if you don't initially buy the add-on battery. And with the drop in battery prices over the last year and probably into the foreseeable future, I think it's a smart option to have available if you want it. Now let's take a look at charging capability for both solar and AC. This is a very important number to consider when you go shopping for these devices. It really gives you an understanding of how quickly you can charge this with either solar panels or from an AC source or even both. Now, the lower the AC or solar charging capability, the longer it's going to take to charge one of these devices. For example, some will only handle about 400 watts of solar input or maybe 1000 watts of AC input, whereas others can handle 1200 watts from solar and 1800 watts or even more of AC input. And these numbers are really important. If you're in a situation where, let's say, for example, the power goes out and you need to charge them from solar or maybe a backup generator, being able to charge them rapidly is going to be important. And one of the considerations we'll cover this year is the ability to change the AC charging speed. EcoFlow has had this feature on its units for quite some time, and it makes really a big difference. Consider the emergency scenario where maybe you have a small gas generator that can only output 1000 watts. If the AC input on the solar generator is 1800 watts, then the gas generator is not going to be able to provide it with electricity, as it would just be too much for the gas generator to handle. Again, it's these little details that can make a big difference. Some of these devices allow you to connect directly to the device via Bluetooth, while others allow a Wi-Fi connection. Now, personally, I like the Wi-Fi connectivity aspect after playing around with these units for years. For example, if I'm away and I'm trying to power something and I want to turn off the AC or DC output remotely to the unit, I can do it via the app. If you have an off-grid setup and you want to remotely monitor or control the output capabilities, you can do that with Wi-Fi. Now, before we wrap this up, let me address the DIY question that's often brought up. Is it better to build your own system or buy a pre-made one like the ones we're covering? First of all, the common comment is that it's cheaper to build your own unit. In my experience, that's not always been the case. You have to buy specialized tools to build a setup. Additionally, when buying components individually as part of your DIY project, you don't normally get a discount unless the item is on sale. These solar generators, they often go on sale, and since these companies buy these components in bulk to build these, they can often pass that discount on to you. And also, how valuable is your time? I own and operate 2 businesses, so I don't have a lot of spare time, and what time I do have is valuable to me. Now, on the other hand, after building out a few solar systems, I've gained great skill and knowledge of how these work. Plus, if you build your own system and part of it goes out, you can just simply replace that component. These units, on the other hand, that we're reviewing are closed systems, and they would require a fair amount of engineering, knowledge, and advanced tools to pull them apart and fix the individual components. That's beyond my ability. The final point, and probably the most important for most people, is costs. The price for these, they can vary widely. And as the old saying goes, you get what you pay for. When I get into the specifics of performance on each of these units, people typically look at costs from the perspective of how many kilowatt hours these devices can hold or their capacity. For example, you can expect to pay between $750 and about $1,000 per kilowatt hour of capacity, but we'll cover this more in the breakdown of each manufacturer. How I test these units. Just a quick note on testing. When I get these, I typically do a few tests on them. I start off by testing the DC and AC efficiency. For DC, I plug in a device that allows me to set the DC output so that I can run the solar generator's output at about 100 watts continuously. And after the battery is depleted, I can divide the total output by the total stated capacity of the battery, which gives me the DC efficiency. Now, I ran a similar test to test the AC output efficiency by recording the total AC output when putting it under a load of about 75% of its total AC output capability. Next, I test each of the device's pure sine wave capabilities at 0, 50, 75, and 100% load on the AC inverter. And I also watch and record the devices while they're charging to see if they have stadium charging capabilities to help determine the speed it charges at different percentages. For example, the devices that have stadium charging, and not all of them do, but the ones that do may charge quickly for the first 70% and then slow down at the last 30%. All this information is recorded in the spreadsheet that I'm going to link to below, and we'll discuss a little more in a moment. Details of each major brand. Let's jump into the overview of the brands that I trust, as I've worked with these for several years. Now, the only major company missing is Goal Zero. I've worked with them in the past, and I've reached out to be a part of this year's video, but I didn't get a response. I did, however, get a product from one US-based company for this review, Point Zero. Now, if any time during this video you want to investigate each unit's specs more deeply, again, I'll direct you to the spreadsheet link below, which provides a much more in-depth breakdown of how each performed after various tests. But we're going to cover the basics here, plus anything that you need to be aware of. So let's go through each of the brands in alphabetical order. Anker. Anker sent me 3 of their units, the Solix C1000, F1500, and F2600. They also sent me the battery expansion packs for the C1000 and F2600. Let's start off by looking at the test results for these units. For DC efficiency, the results were 89%, 80%, and 82% for these 3 models. The DC efficiency for the C1000 was the highest of all the units that we tested. And the average for all the units that we tested was 81%, so these performed above the average. The AC efficiency results were 80%, 78%, and 78%, with the average of all the units that we tested being at 82%, so these were slightly below average. For battery capacity, you have 1,056 watt hours, 1,536 watt hours, and 2,560 watt hours. For solar input, they can handle an input of 600 watts, 600 watts, and 1,000 watts. For total battery capacity, you can expand up to a total of 2,122 watt hours for the C1000. The F1500 does not allow battery expansion, and a total of 4,608 watt hours for the F2600. Now, the prices at the time of recording this video were $999, $1,199, and $1,999. Each of these units utilizes the popular lithium iron phosphate batteries, which allow roughly 10 years of daily use or 3,500 charge cycles to 80% capacity. And also you can connect to these via their app with either Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. One feature that Anker has on their app is the ability to control the AC input charging speed. And this really comes in handy when charging the device, so you can control the speed in increments that allow you to make some pretty important changes. These also have a solid 5-year warranty and provide EPS or emergency power supply in under 20 milliseconds. Overall, Anker put together a very solid lineup. I would contend Anker is really the up-and-coming solar generator company to watch. But there is one small issue that I have with them. The solar charging connector, which has open slots to plug in the XT60 connectors to their solar panels. Most on the market use an MC4 connector, which gives you more options as to which solar panels that you can connect to, but they went with this approach. But to be fair, you can buy MC4 to XT60 connectors to get around the issue, So it's not really the end of the world, but it does limit your ability to connect a wider range of solar panels. But if I could summarize these units, I would say they're very well thought out. Bluetti. Bluetti sent me 3 of their units, the AC180, AC200PL, and AC240. They also sent a battery expansion pack for the AC240. So let's start off by looking at these results for these units. For DC efficiency, these 3 models' results were 82%, 82%, and 79%. The average for all the units that we tested was 81%, so they performed consistently within the average. The AC efficiency results were 90%, 86%, and 90%, with the average of all the units that we tested being 82%, so these were above the average. Now, the AC efficiency for the AC180 and AC240 were amongst the highest in AC efficiency of all the units that we tested. For battery capacity, you have 1,152 watt hours, 2,304 watt hours, and 1,536 watt hours. And for solar input, they can handle an input of 500 watts, 1,200 watts, and 1,200 watts. For total battery capacity, you can expand up to a total of 1,958 watt hours for the AC180. The AC200PL can go up to 8,000 watt hours and a total of 10,136 watt hours for the AC240. The prices at the time of recording this video are $999, $1,199, and $1,899. Now, each of these units utilizes the popular lithium iron phosphate batteries, again, which allows you to charge them for about roughly 10 years or 3,500 charge cycles up to 80% capacity. And you can also connect to these via their app with Bluetooth. All of them, except the AC180, can connect to your app over Wi-Fi. And they also allow you to change the AC charging speed, which we discussed earlier in the video. Again, it's a feature that comes in handy if you need to modify how fast these charge. These also provide EPS or emergency power supply in under 20 milliseconds. And additionally, you can add on batteries to expand the capacity. Okay, so let's start off by highlighting the unique aspects of these units. These can all be grounded, which is honestly rare to see on portable units like these. Their test results for AC output showed they're very efficient, so they definitely did well there. Now let's take a quick look at the AC200PL. It can be combined with several different batteries that Bluetti sells, so you get a lot of compatibility options there. Plus, when combined with 2 of their B300 batteries, it can be expanded out to 8,500 watt hours, which is pretty impressive for a unit this size. But the really fascinating model they sent is their AC240. It can be tied to 4 of their B210 batteries for a total capacity of 10,136 watt hours. Now, additionally, it's water resistant, which none of the other models we reviewed this year offer. This unit really stands out if you need something that you will be transporting around and using outdoors in wet or dusty conditions. But the feature that's extremely unique about this one is that you can tie it together with another AC240 to get a total of 4,800 watts of output at 120 volts. And what's even more interesting is that with these 2 units tied together, plus combined with their add-on batteries, you can expand the capacity all the way up to 20 kilowatt hours, which is quite a lot. And I've reviewed their AC300 and AC500, which use the same approach, except those can output 240 volts. I'll be honest, I'm very impressed with the versatility that they accomplished with this unit, and it's still portable. This year, they did a great job refreshing their lineup and bringing many of the important features, such as app connectivity, AC charging rate, and expandability up to speed. EcoFlow. EcoFlow sent me 2 of their units this year for this review, the Delta 2 and the Delta 2 Max. They also sent a battery expansion pack for the Delta 2 Max. Let's start off by looking at the test results for these units. For DC efficiency, these 2 models' results were 79% and 82%. The average for all the units that we tested was 81%. And the AC efficiency results were 78% and 81%, with the average of all the units that we tested being 82%. Now for battery capacity, you have 1,024 watt hours and 2,048 watt hours. For solar input, they can handle an input of 500 watts and 1,000 watts. For total battery capacity, you can expand to 2,048 watt hours for the Delta 2 and 6,080 watt hours for the Delta 2 Max. The prices for both models are $1,599 and $1,599. So let's talk about what really stands out in these units. They both can connect to the device via their app over Wi-Fi, and you can control the unit remotely. One of the unique things that EcoFlow had for quite a while was the ability to change the AC charge input. It's a detail, again, that often gets overlooked when discussing these, but I find it incredibly useful when I charge these. There are times when I connect these up to an AC source that may not be able to handle a large load, but I can easily modify these values through their app. The way I would describe EcoFlow is really having set the standard for the last few years in regards to their features and ecosystem. For example, they have a smart dual fuel generator you can connect to these units, which communicates with them when charging them. They've also just rolled out an 800-watt alternator charger that you can tie into your car if you want to charge these on the go. And I read a comment a while back wherein the person complained that I don't test these units for durability beyond the initial review. After I review solar generators, I'll typically do a giveaway to the community for several of the units. I'll sell some and I'll just keep some. Now, I typically hold on to the EcoFlow models after doing these reviews, and I've had 2 of their Delta Pro models for a few years now. And I'll be honest, they're tanks. I've beat them, I've pushed them hard, and they just keep going. From a durability standpoint, EcoFlow has held up very well for me. Jackery. Jackery sent me 3 of their units this year for this review. The Jackery 1000 Plus, the 1500 Pro, and the 2000 Pro. They also sent a battery expansion pack for the Jackery 1000 Plus. So let's start out by looking at the test results for these units. For DC efficiency, these 3 models' results were 84%, 82%, and 84%. The average for all the units that we tested was 81%, so they came in slightly higher than the average. The AC efficiency results were 81%, 81%, and 91%, with the average of all the units being tested at 82%. For battery capacity, you have 1,264 watt hours, 1,512 watt hours, and 2,160 watt hours. For solar input, they can handle an input of 800 watts, 1,200 watts, and 1,200 watts. For total battery capacity, you can expand up to a total of 5 kilowatt hours with 3 of their add-on batteries for the 1000 Plus model only. And the prices for these models are $1,499, $1,699, and $1,599. So let's talk about what stands out in these units. Jackery has really targeted the outdoor community for years, and they still do. They're just simple devices that work. Their units didn't have app connectivity in the past, but they've changed that with their Plus models. Additionally, with the 1000 Plus, they've actually gone to lithium iron phosphate battery chemistry, and they've added the ability to expand them with additional batteries. When I go camping, I like to take the 2000 Pro and connect it up with their Solar Seca panels. It just really performs well. Now, their solar panels are not cheap by any means, but they're incredibly efficient. These units are a bit smaller than some of the other ones that we've tested with comparable capacity, and again, are a bit more lightweight and compact, which comes in handy when camping. Pecron. Pecron sent me 2 of their units this year for this review, the Pecron E1500 LFP and the E2000 LFP. They also sent a battery expansion pack for both of these units. So let's start out by looking at the test results for these units. For DC efficiency, these 2 models' results were 83% and 80%. The average for all of the units we tested was 81%. The AC efficiency results were 79% and 88%, with the average of all the units being tested at 82%. For battery capacity, you have 1,536 watt hours and 1,920 watt hours. For solar input, they can handle an input of 800 watts and 1,300 watts. And with their add-on batteries, you can expand the E1500 LFP's total battery capacity to 7.7 kilowatt hours and the E2000 LFP's to 8 kilowatt hours. Now, the prices for these models are $799 and $849. So you probably already see what stands out about these units, their price. And I've reviewed several of their units over the last several years, and they've made some substantial upgrades, like the ability to expand their capacity with add-on batteries. Now, as I stated at the beginning of the video, one of the common questions I get asked all the time is, what's the best option for a tight budget? Well, here's your answer. They're the budget-friendly, really no-frills option. What you see is what you get. Are you going to be able to control these via an app like you can with EcoFlow models, or tie 2 of these units together like Bluetti for double output? No. But for those models, you pay more to get more features. But with these, our main feature is a low price point. Point 0. I wanted to include at least one US-based company in this year's review, so I contacted Point 0 to obtain their newest unit, the Titan 240SP. I will say that maybe I should have included this in my whole home solar generator review, which I'll do later in the summer, as it's very heavy and very powerful. and it's really geared more towards off-grid setups. I decided to include both of these units in this video because, again, I wanted a US-based company to showcase, and honestly, they've gotten some pretty good reviews from some channels that specialize in reviewing these. So let's start off by looking at the test results for these units. For DC efficiency, the Titan's value was 91%, and for the Titan 240 SP, it doesn't have a DC port. The average for all the units that we tested was 81%. For AC efficiency, the results were 78% and 85%, with the average of all the units being tested at 82%. Now for battery capacity, you start off at 2,000 watt hours with the lithium ion battery and 2,500 watt hours for their lithium iron phosphate battery. For solar input, they can handle an input of 2,000 watts and 4,400 watts. Now the prices for these models with one battery are $2,900 and $3,800. As I mentioned, these are definitely more suitable for permanent installations, and the company is really geared toward the off-grid community and those wanting a home backup power option for unseen emergencies. And I want to focus primarily on their Titan 240 SP in this video, which is their newest model. It has a 4,000 watt low frequency pure sine wave inverter, and it can handle a 10-second surge at 8,000 watts. And the battery capacity can be expanded up to 27,500 watt hours with their add-on batteries. It can provide both 120 volt and 240 volt. It has dual UPS backup modes. The main head unit can handle 2,400 watts of solar, but it can also be expanded up to 4,400 watts with an external MPPT charger that they sell. It also has an app that you can use to connect via Bluetooth. Again, these units are definitely more on the larger end of capabilities for the range of solar generators that we're covering in this video, but again, I just wanted to bring them to your attention. Solar panel options. Before we dive into this section, let me just say one thing first. If a panel is rated for 200 watts, does it mean you're always going to get 200 watts anytime the sun is out? Well, not really. There are a lot of factors such as temperature, the angle of the panel in relation to the sun, clouds overhead, etc. So just be sure to set your expectations. Now, when it comes to solar panel options, are you limited to the solar panels that the manufacturer recommends? The manufacturer will list the information on the website, explain the watts, amps, and volt ranges when connecting your device to solar panels. So you always want to be careful to observe the manufacturer's recommended values to prevent overloading the device and potentially voiding the warranty. Now, typically, they're going to list the recommended solar panels that you can purchase with the unit that works within the range they set. Now, normally these come at a premium though. There are lower price options on the market, such as rigid solar panels that are often used for permanent exterior mounting, but they're not really ideal for mobility. These types of solar panels may be either too heavy or bulky to transport if there's a disaster forcing you to evacuate. Now, in that case, you want to purchase a manufacturer's panels, which are often easily portable. But for maximum mobility though, I do recommend one vendor I've showcased on the channel. They sell solar blankets which can be literally rolled up and easily deployed. They're light enough and small enough to be easily stored if you're forced to evacuate. These also have a higher voltage, so they do produce a considerable amount more than just most solar panels on the market, decreasing your time to charge. Plus, they do better in low light conditions. They do come at a much higher price point though, but like with all things, you pay for a better product. I'll post a link to these solar blankets below and in the spreadsheet, and we'll document how many can be used with each solar generator if you'd like to pair them with the unit that you're looking at. Maintenance and protection. With the traditional internal combustion engine generator that runs off gas or diesel, you have to do things on a regular basis like change the oil, the spark plug, or keep the carburetor clean. For the solar generators, there's not really maintenance per se. It just comes down to taking them out at least every 3 to 6 months, discharging them, and then charging them back up. So how much should you charge it before storing it? Ideally around 50%. I wouldn't store them fully charged. And apart from that, that's about it. Now, one last thing I will bring up, as this comment always comes up in the comments of my videos, is in regards to EMPs. If you're not familiar with EMPs, or electromagnetic pulses, it's a concern within the preparedness community along with CMEs, or Carrington events. Now, both are real possibilities, albeit not overly probable. In the description section, I'll post a link to a recent video I did detailing setting up a Faraday cage using a metal trash can, which can easily protect these against a CME or an EMP event. What can I power with these? When I do these types of videos, the most common question I get is, well, can it power my refrigerator or power this device? And instead of trying to answer each one of these typical devices that people want to power, instead we built a calculator that will take you through and show you in real time what the, whatever the unit is that you're looking at, what it can actually power and for how long. So if you come over to my desktop, we'll start off with this. But again, you can get access to this. We'll put a link in the description and comment section below. So here we are on the tab Capability Calculator. Now, if you look here, there's two sides to this spreadsheet. On the left side, we've got the typical devices that you want to power, and we'll talk about this more in a moment. On the right side, we've got all the different units that we tested for this video, and we input all their values, including running watts, surge watts, AC efficiency, capacity. And again, all this is built in for you already in advance, so you can see in real time what this can output. So one of the most common questions I get is in regards to refrigerators. So if we look here at row 17, we have an 18 cubic refrigerator, kind of an average refrigerator size. If you research online, they pull roughly about 200 watts an hour. So if I were to say, hey, after disaster, how long the power goes out, how long will these different devices power that refrigerator? Okay, well, let's just play around. Let's just say for 1 hour, let's say the power goes out for an hour. And so as you can see here, you can change the time with this drop down. You can go all the way from minutes up to hours. If you were to say, well, how many of these refrigerators do you have? Some people have multiple. Let's just keep it simple and we'll say one refrigerator. Okay, great. So now what does this tell us? Well, if we look here for the Anker Solix C1000, if we scroll down, we're going to see all of these values down here. It shows us the largest device that we're powering in this particular situation. It's refrigerator. If I add on other devices, it's going to update. Let's just play around with this for 1 second. Let's say we want to use a power tool, a small one. And let's say I want to run that for, I don't know, let's say 15 minutes. And let's again say there's just one. Well, now we see that we've got the, over here looking at this one pulls just 200 watts. All right, well, let's say I want to pull a hot plate. Well, a hot plate pulls 1,000 watts. I'm going to come back over here and shut off appliances, by the way. So let's just say I'm going to do a hot plate and I want to run that for roughly, let's just say an hour and just one of them. Well, you're going to see here, it shows it pulls 1,000 watts in that hour. Okay, so if we scroll down here, now we see the largest device in this particular case is a hot plate. It's pulling 1,000 watts. The largest surge, and again, if we look at our values over here, is 600 watts. It's going to go through here and look for the biggest surge of all the devices that we are powering. Now, this particular device, it can output up to 2,600 watts of surge. So again, this calculator is showing you, hey, the largest surge running is 600. If we go over that, it's going to trip it. And again, this calculator will show that if you select something that's just too much for it. The surge, if all devices are on its start, typically when you start up one of these solar generators, you don't want to have everything plugged in. It's going to, just be a lot. You kind of want to slowly add them on piecemeal at a time to see how the device handles it. But again, it just shows you if you had everything plugged in, you turn this unit on, this is the surge that it's going to, again, if it goes over the maximum, it's going to trip it out. Total running watts needed while running all the devices you're selected from above. So this is telling us that it's going to need a total of 1,110 watts. Well, for our particular hot plate, we're pulling 1,000. For the power tools, we said we want that for 15 minutes. And so we're already seeing that we're now pulling 1,110. Now the maximum surge capability of the solar generator is 2,600. And again, we talked about that. The recommended running watts for this particular device is 900. Remember earlier when we talked about running watts, we want to run the device at about 50% of its total output capability. So if it's saying, hey, I can do 1,800 watts continuous, 50% of that would be 900. So that's where that value is right there. We're telling you, you want to kind of keep it under 900. So again, if we look at this, we see the capacity of the solar generator. We already pre-populated that for you is 1,056. AC efficiency is 80. So what does this tell us right here? We're actually running in the negative. After running that hot plate, well, it's going to drain all the power very quickly. So you would actually be upside down. So it's not going to be able to power a hot plate for an hour. So if we were to put that down to 0 and we scroll back down here, hey, guess what? It can handle it just fine. So let's look at the example again of the refrigerator. If we were to say, well, I want to power a refrigerator, that's my priority for 6 hours, and maybe running one of these electrical devices is just not that important. The main thing is the refrigerator. Well, again, we've overshot. It's just not going to power it for much, for probably more than about 4 hours. So if we bump that number down, again, you can kind of play around and see here. All right, yeah, it can do it for 4 hours on a refrigerator. And as you can see, some of these other devices, if we scroll, and they also update in real time. This one right here, the Anker 2600, yeah, it's got more than enough juice to continue on. And you can see, obviously, in all this, the more battery capacity, the more continuous AC output, the more power devices you can power in for longer. So hopefully that gives you at least an understanding of how this works. Again, my encouragement is to go take this, make a copy, download it to your Google account, your Google Drive, and just simply play around with these values here. And you'll be able to quickly see if these devices can power what you need. Which would I recommend? Now, if you go back to this video and you watch my breakdown of each brand based on the units they sent me this year, you really get a good idea of what each brand is capable of, the ins and outs, the features, and the capabilities. So let's summarize each brand quickly, and I'll give you my recommendation based on what I learned this year testing these units out. Now, Anker is definitely up and coming, and their units are very capable. Bluetti is definitely designed to do a lot of things, and they're expandable both in capacity and AC output when tied together, and it's clear they're targeting individuals who probably want more of a permanent backup power source, but yet still want mobility. Jackery, they've done a great job with their new Plus models, which have many of the features that we've come to expect from these, such as lithium iron phosphate batteries, app connectivity, and the ability to expand the batteries out. Now, Pecron, without a doubt, targets budget shoppers. They've been making upgrades on their models to offer features that you would normally pay nearly double for in some of the models that we tested. Point Zero is going after the off-grid and home backup power community, and they're really designed to be more of a permanent, powerful, and expandable setup. Now, this brings us to EcoFlow. For the last few years, while testing these units, EcoFlow has really stood out with features the other brands have added only in the last year. They've built an ecosystem of products that allow you to expand their units' capabilities, like their smart dual fuel generator and their Wave 2 portable AC conditioner. And they're just innovating some really cool stuff. And for me, their app is still one of the most intuitive that I've tested. But as I stated earlier, I typically hold on to EcoFlow products after these reviews as they're just durable. For example, I've been using their Delta Pro models quite a lot for a couple of years, and they just keep performing even though I tend to push them to their limits over and over. So for this year, I'm awarding the EcoFlow Delta 2 Max as the winner. I like the compact form, the expandability, and the durability of EcoFlow products. The ease of being able to control it via their app with Wi-Fi remotely, their new car DC charger that they're rolling out that can quickly charge this in your car, the AC output capabilities for a unit of this size and weight, the ability to be able to charge it quickly with AC, and even more importantly, being able to control the AC charge rate. It just really checks a lot of boxes for me. And for the average consumer that wants a basic all-around solid option, you really can't go wrong with this unit. Now, also, as I stated at the beginning of the video, I limited the brands that we chose this year and featured because you want to make sure that if you do buy one of these, a company is not going to fold this year or next, which I've seen happen with a few of the smaller, lesser known brands. And look, I realize you may have different needs, and one of these other units that we cover may be a better fit, but if I could take all the features that I think are important based on years of testing and really compress them into just one unit, I think the Delta 2 Max pulls it off pretty well. So what do you think? Do you think this model or a different model should win the award this year? Let me know in the comments section below. Giveaway. All right, here's what we're going to do for the solar generator giveaway. EcoFlow, they offered to do a giveaway for their Delta Max to the winner of our contest giveaway. To enroll for the contest, all you have to do is go to cityprepping.com/solar generator. And you can sign up for our newsletter to get the spreadsheet and be automatically enrolled for our giveaway there. In exactly 1 month from releasing this video, we're going to send out an email to the winner, so please check your inbox in 1 month of us releasing this video. Now, additionally, EcoFlow is doing another giveaway for a River Pro if you're interested in that. I'll post a link to that below if you want to sign up for that. So hopefully this video provides you enough information to really help you in your decision-making process. After this one, I would encourage you to watch the video shown here on the side of the screen detailing how to determine your power needs after the grid goes down. It really covers this subject in more detail to ensure you have a strong understanding, and it really reinforces what we covered here in more detail. If you have any questions or feedback, please feel free to post them below. And as always, stay safe out there.